Hi, I'm Mark Aston from Media Insider. I'm just doing a few videos, have been over the last 2 or 3 days, not about specifically what I'm involved in, and that is helping people do their own PR, doing a bit of PR for people, and also some media training, presentation training. But I've been doing some videos that focus on confidence and self-belief. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about and this will only be short, but it's important. I just wanted to talk a little bit about having the confidence to initiate communication, initiate a dialogue with a reporter. And this is a very important part of doing your own PR for a number of reasons. And it helps you enormously. Building relationships with reporters is so important, and reporters aren't monsters. They're totally approachable. I mean, there's a way of doing it, but they're totally approachable. In fact, whilst they're busy, they would still like you to approach them and have a chat to them about your business, your ideas, the fact that you're going to be sending media releases out to them, or you'd like to send media releases out to them, because reporters live for a story. Now, it may be that you send a media release out to a reporter and they're not interested in that story. That happens. I mean, there'll be times, obviously, when you send a media release out to a reporter and they'll love the story. That's just the way it goes. And there are various reasons why they wouldn't be interested. But you don't want to take that personally, of course. But getting back on point, it's important that you develop relationships with reporters. And you can do this in a couple of ways. The first way is to email them or to give them a call. Now, you might think, well, that's fine, but I wouldn't even know where to start. Let me give you an example. If you live in Adelaide, for example, and you are involved in the medical area, you have a business involved in medicine or medical products, then what I'd be doing is I'd be concentrating on one of the mediums, whether it be television, radio, or print, and I'd make an inquiry to, say, for example, let's say print. I'd make an inquiry to the advertiser. So I'd ring the advertiser and I'd ask them, who are the reporters that do stories that are focusing on medicine? And they may not necessarily give you their number or put you through to them, but they will give you their email. Now, that's simple. I know that sounds very fundamental and very basic, but that's done. I mean, that's very much an obvious way to contact a reporter. We have another local paper here called In Daily. I would do the same thing there. Obviously, television stations are a source for you, and so I would do the same there. I would do the same when it comes to radio as well. Now, there might not necessarily be, in Adelaide, for example, there may not necessarily be a show specifically about medicine, but shows on talk stations, for example, like 5AA or 891, are doing various stories. They're doing a whole gamut of stories on a whole range of topics. And so your story about your product or your thoughts on a particular issue in the medical world may well be of interest to them. And so I would simply ring a radio station, ring a TV station, ring a newspaper and ask them if they have reporters who focus on medicine, who focus on health, who focus on what you're thinking about promoting. And I'll just go back to radio. As I said, they may not necessarily have a particular person that focuses on that. But what I would be doing there is I would be ringing a radio station. I would be getting the news director's email so that you can then send your media release to that news director. So that's for news. But I also would be asking for contact details for a number of the producers that do shows, that produce the shows for that particular radio station. And I'm talking talk at this stage. I'll cover something more specific on FM a little bit later on in a different video. So I know that sounds very obvious to ring and ask for an email address, or if you're lucky enough to get a number. But that's how simple it is. And when you send that email to that particular reporter, they would expect that. Hi, I'm so-and-so, this is my business. I'm hoping to do some, or put out some press releases and deliver some stories. I think a lot of those stories would be, really, really good for the newspaper that you're involved in, or the TV station, or the radio show, for example. And I would like, just to make sure that you know who I am, I won't be bugging you, I won't be wasting your time, but I think it's important that, I at least make contact, reach out and have a chat to you. Now, most of the time they'll get back to you. They're busy, but most of the time they'll get back to you. And the reason they'll get back to you is because they'll think, okay, this is another good contact for me, because as I said earlier, reporters live for a story. So that's the first way that you can start your relationship journey with a reporter. The second way is, if you do send a media release out and you are asked for an interview, then make sure that you start that relationship with that reporter either before the interview or after. Make sure you thank them for the fact that they're doing a story with you. Make sure that you give them a bit more detail about your business, about the fact that you want to continually send out media releases with potential stories for that particular reporter who works for that particular media organisation. And don't feel as though you're being too pushy, because again, as I say, and I make this point and it's really important, they expect that. They're looking for new contacts. And so when you meet a reporter, when you're about to do a story, you've already sent your media release out, and that particular media organisation's agreed to do a story, and the reporter comes out to do the interview with you, or they do it over the phone if it's radio, or if it's print, for example. They may not necessarily meet you in person. They certainly would if it's television. Nurture and start developing that relationship with them. Thank them, and ask them if it's okay if you can get their email address, or would you mind if I grabbed your phone number. So there's two ways. Now the third thing I need to impress upon you is that once you've got that detail, and once you've had a communication with a reporter, again, they're busy. You've got to understand they're busy. So if it's television, for example, you wouldn't ring them for a general chat at 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock, because they're going to be really busy at that time. So if you choose your times wisely, and perhaps do it in the morning or at lunchtime, whatever it might be, and you want to send a media release out, but you're not quite sure about something, you might want to offer it to that particular reporter exclusively. You might have a query about, something that you've written in that media release. You might be simply asking them, are you interested? Is this the sort of story you'd be interested in? Then you can do that as well. And once you get their email address or their phone number, you can do that, but keep it brief. Again, they're busy. Keep it brief. Make sure that you keep it brief, and simply ring them. Hi, I'm so-and-so. Yeah, hi, yeah, we met the other day, or yes, I got your email a couple of weeks ago. And then ask them, look, I'm about to send a media release out. I just wanted to know, let me just read the headline and a couple of lines. Is that the sort of thing you might be interested in? Or is there something I need to do to make it a little bit sexier? Or is there something I need to do to at least ensure that you guys would consider it? And again, you're not being pushy. You mustn't be pushy. You mustn't insist. You need to be humble and caring and polite. No forcefulness. That's a definite. So there are 2 or 3 different things that you can do when you are looking to build and develop relationships with reporters. But the most important thing is have the confidence to do it. Just reporters are like anyone else. I mean, they all have needs and wants. Most of them are good people. They're trustworthy. They live for a story, and so if they know that you are a source to them, a contact to them, and they know they can trust you, they know that you're putting out good content, and that you're not being pushy, then make no mistake about it, they will want you to contact them. And quite often, and this is the exciting thing, after you've contacted them or you've done a couple of stories with them, you might find they ring you and they might say, look, I haven't got a story today. Is there anything happening in your area? Is there anything happening in health? Or is there anything happening in finance, if they're ringing one of their finance contacts? They might have a contact, for example, in sport, or they might have a contact in government, wherever it may be. Though they need content. So when you turn it all around, in the end, after you've been sending out stuff, hoping to get a story, that turns around and quite often you'll get the call from them and they'll be basically saying, is there something we can do? And of course that's a wonderful bonus. So I just finished by simply saying, be confident and understand that reporters or journalists are waiting for you to build those relationships with them. They're very important.